Hi everybody, this is Tim. I'm doing my first video now for my cookbook, I Didn't Get Fat by Accident. And you see I'm sporting my not quite as fat as I used to be shirt. Anyway, so we're gonna move on right now. I'm going to do star bread, and I'm doing this video because you really have to know the technique in order to get the star bread pattern right. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I'm gonna be showing you the star bread. You start with, if you read the recipe, you start with 4 rounds, and I've already rolled those out. And so I'm going to start with my base round. This particular star bread, I'm using a cinnamon and apple filling. I actually, instead of using water, I used apple juice to make the bread so that it will have a slight apple flavor. And I added a little bit more sugar than you normally would add. For this one, I'm basically using a cinnamon roll filling, which is a half a cup of butter, a half a cup of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And you cream that together and it gives you your filling. So I'm gonna make this basically like a cinnamon pull-apart bread, but with a little bit of apple in it also. So, just spreading this out. Not gonna spread it all the way to the end, because if you spread it all the way to the end, it'll make it hard to form the star bread later. You're on the bread there, right, Em?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it just has to be kind of round-ish. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. It doesn't have to be pretty at this point, because it's gonna be pretty later. So we've got the first layer pretty much down, and it's round-ish. But as we form the star bread, it'll get a little bit better. Now I'm gonna add some apples. Now, these apples have turned a little bit brown, but they've been going for about an hour and a half. They've been out. What you wanna do to keep apples from turning completely brown is you want to soak them in water with a little bit of lemon juice, and that'll stop the oxidation process. It doesn't change the flavor at all if they do turn brown, but this will keep them looking a little bit pretty. So I'm gonna add a small amount of apples into the star bread. And these are probably gonna get a little bit messy when we try to fold the star bread into the star shape, but for right now, we just want as much flavor as possible. Because this bread can eat up flavor, whatever flavoring you put in there, the bread will eat and kind of make it bland. So that's the first layer, and we continue with the rest of the layers. Just like that. And we're gonna do that for 4 layers, putting a layer of filling in between each. Another thing you can do that I've done here is I've soaked some raisins in rum. I soaked this, I put rum in this ramekin, I put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds and let it soak for about 3 or 4 hours. So they've been sitting for a couple of days, so they don't have that much of a rum flavor, but they do have a little bit. So I'm gonna add a little bit of the raisins into this. Mostly I'm gonna put them on top for garnish, but this will add a little tiny bit more flavor to the dish. This is my second layer that I'm doing now. I'm about to add more apples, and then we will finish with the 3rd layer, or the 3rd filling layer anyway. Okay, now this is where the magic happens. This is where you go from having, basically a layer of flat bread to making it into the star pattern. It's very important when you started this that you start on parchment paper, because what we're gonna have to do is transfer it after we form it into the star pattern, into some baking dish of some kind, and then cook with it. So where you're gonna start is you're going to mark the center of the bread with either a cookie cutter or a donut cutter. I have a donut cutter here, and you're not gonna push it all the way through. All you're gonna do is indent. So you're gonna make a little indentation into the dough, and that's gonna give you a reference point to make your cuts, to make the petals for the star bread. So you can see, can you see that on the video? You can see the circle I've got. It doesn't cut through it, it's just making an indentation. Now you're gonna cut 8 petals. So you're gonna go right to the edge of the dough, of the circle, and you're gonna cut all the way through so you have a nice clean petal. And then you can, because you're on parchment, you can spin it. You're gonna do another one exactly halfway from that. It looks like I didn't quite get it in the center, but that's all right. And then turn it 1/4. Another 1/4. And then bisect those to make 8 petals. Okay, so now you have 8 petals. This is where the hard part happens, and we're going to see just how much the chunky apples make it difficult. So now you're gonna cut just a little bit farther. You're gonna take one of the petals, you're gonna cut just a little tiny bit farther than you cut them before, all right? And cut that petal in half. Now, you're gonna lift up, and so that it clears the bread, and you're gonna turn them 1.5 times. So there's 1.5, and then you're gonna pinch these together. Pinch these ends together, and you can actually kind of take your thumbs here and spread these petals so that it makes it look like a little flower right there. And you can pull it a little bit more and bring it out a little bit. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do that all the way around until we have 8 petals just like that. Okay, so we're on the last petal now. Some of the things that may happen when you're doing that, you might get some of the apple or whatever falling out. In that case, just kind of move it out of the way. We don't want it to get in the way of the look of it. So now if you come down here, I'm gonna cut, make sure when you cut through this, you're cutting all the way to the paper because that's the only way you're gonna get good separation with your petals. And then it's very important that you pull up and clear the rest of the bread and do the twist. And when you do the twist, if you wanna go a little more than 1.5, that's fine, and then bring it back together, because what that does is it makes it look like a little flower right here, and you can just kind of spread that out with your fingers a little bit. And when it rises, that'll become more of a flower. So now you can see we have our star pattern, and we have the star shape in the middle, right here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna brush that. We're gonna let that rise for about 30 to 45 minutes. We're gonna brush it with egg wash, and then we're gonna cook it for about 25 to 30 minutes, but not before we put it in the pan. So you can put it on a cookie sheet. I like to put it in a cast iron pan because it looks cool. So you can just, at this point, lift it up by the parchment paper, gently set the parchment paper in, and then trim off the excess so that it doesn't actually affect the rows. Just a set of kitchen shears. Emily bought these for me, thank you, Emily. They work wonders, and I almost tripped over the cat food, and that would have made for a great comedy moment. But, so there is your star bread right there. That's what it looks like in the pan, and we will show you more. You can look at the photos anyway of what it can look like when it's done. So thank you. That's how you make star bread. Good luck. I hope it doesn't screw up on you. Bye. Hi everybody, we're back, and the star bread has risen. So we're going to reveal it now. We had it covered up, and this is what it looks like now. Nice and risen and pretty. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna garnish it, and we're gonna put some egg wash on it. So to make egg wash, it's very simple. You start with a cup. If it's got, minions on it, even better. This is Kim's favorite cup. So if she gets a little egg in her coffee, what does it matter? Okay, so you just gotta crack some eggs. Very, very simple. 1 to 2, you don't need more than 2, you don't need a lot of eggs. And then we're just gonna add a little tiny bit of water. Just a splash of water. And mix that up with a fork. Beat it real good till you got a nice yellow color. And that's a simple egg wash right there. We're gonna brush that over the star bread, but we're only gonna brush it on the parts of the star bread that don't have the filling in them. We don't wanna brush them over the cinnamon and the apple and that kind of stuff because it kind of takes a look away from it. What the egg wash does is it makes it brown evenly and makes it really pretty. So we're gonna brush it in places like here, on the tops of the petals, and that's it. So, get your brush out. Make sure you got a good, healthy coat on it, because if it doesn't coat, it won't brown evenly. And when you get to the petals, it's hard to see a little bit, but we're only doing the tops of the petals. Egg wash also makes a good glue. If you want to stick things together, you can see some of these petals didn't stick together all that well, but if I had used egg wash there, it would have stuck it together like glue. It would have been fantastic. So what you're looking to do is get a really good coating of egg wash just on the parts of the bread that are going to show, and the star pattern in the middle, and not get the center where you have apple and cinnamon. Okay, so this is what it looks like with the egg wash on it, and it's hard to tell here, but it's nice and shiny. And then you can add other garnishes. Remember I said I was going to add some of those rum-soaked raisins? So I'm going to put some of those up on the top there, and let those go ahead and fall down into the crevices if they want. I'm going to take them kind of off the bread pieces though, because what I don't want is for it to stop the browning process on those sections. And then you can add a little bit more brown sugar. Be careful, this is going to form a little bit of a glaze and a crust, so you'd want to be sparing with this so that you don't get, you know, a hard coating on the outside of the bread. And then, let's see, you can add a little cinnamon. This is apple spice actually, and cinnamon here, apple pie spice. You can actually add a little bit of those. Just a tad though, because you're only looking to garnish, you're not looking to add too much to it. And a little bit of apple pie spice, just a tad. A little bit of this goes a long way, so you kind of want to pour it in your fingers and spread it over like that. It's got nutmeg and allspice in it, and those are very strong flavors that that can take over a dish very easily. However, that said, remember I said that this would eat up the flavor. What I meant by that is this dish, because it's got so many layers of bread, the flavors can get lost. So your filling really has to be a very strong flavor. So after you're done, you can see we've got this nice and pretty and ready to go into an oven for 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. I find that 28 minutes works best. So, thank you, and I'll show you pictures after it's done. Bye.